The context. In the last 5 years, Belarus faced 3 massive hits to supply chains. First was COVID. Factories shut down, logistics froze, shipping costs went crazy, and almost every country brought in rules that made cross-border trade harder. Second, sanctions. Starting from 2020, Europe and later the US expanded restrictions against Belarus economy and the big companies linked to it. This automaker was on the list. Sanctions meant harder access to parts, closed export markets, and payment headaches. And third, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Russia became one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. Belarus, tied closely to Russia, was hit as well. This time there were no loopholes left to buy European components. For many companies, that's a recipe for collapse. What the company did? Even before COVID, they started fixing their weak points. Their focus was on the parts that could stop production if supply failed. Step 1. Localize critical components. They set up 2 joint ventures with Chinese partners, one for engines and one for gearboxes. That meant more control, less dependence, and the ability to cover their major needs inside Belarus. With domestic capacity in place, they could adapt faster if supplier changed. Step 2. Keep closer ties with China. Not just formal agreements, regular trips, hands-on negotiations, direct contact between top management. They invested years into building trust. Face-to-face, exchanging gifts, and all the personal touches that make relationships stick. Step 3. Open a representative office in China. Since the mid-2000s, they were already sourcing a huge amount from China. The decision was smart. If you are dependent, then make it into strategic advantage. They sent a team of engineers to work on the ground in China, to coordinate suppliers, solve problems, control the supply chain directly and locally, and gain access to China's massive component base. Many thought it was wasted money. An expensive representative office in China, why just not buy from importers or distributors? Then COVID came. The team inside China became a lifeline, able to move faster and fix problems while others were just stuck waiting. Then sanctions came. Many suppliers walked away from Belarus, but the Chinese partners stayed because the relationships were personal. And then the war came. While supply chains in Russia collapsed, the Belarus automaker kept producing. They had the parts, the channels, and the trust to keep it going. So competitors were pausing productions and paying triple for the same components they were delivering. And the numbers showed every year since COVID, production, sales, and the market share hit new records. What we can learn. I explained this case not to show how regimes can avoid sanctions or find loopholes. This isn't about politics, it's about risk management. 15 years ago, management of that company saw their dependence on China and made a strategic move to accept and to strengthen it. That move resulted in thriving when others were in the chaos. Key takeaways. If you are a big manufacturer, do everything you can to localize critical parts. If you can't do it alone, find a reliable technology partner. Then your production doesn't stop in a crisis. Build long-term, high-trust relationships with your suppliers so you can recover fast under pressure. If those suppliers are Chinese and you critically depend on them, you need a Chinese entity and a local team. And the bigger you are, the more costly factory downtime becomes. A few delayed parts can be enough to stop the production. The costs of keeping real presence in China is small compared to the risks and the opportunities that open up for those who commit. Chinese business culture is built on guanxi, connections, and renxing, personal goodwill and obligations. When you invest in both, you are building a strategic asset. And sometimes, as this case shows, this asset can save your company. This was an experimental topic. If you found this useful, like, subscribe, and leave a comment so I know to make more. See you next time.